What's going on, guys? This is Luke from Sober from Despair. I want to welcome you to the second video of Successful Recovery. Topic of this video is clarity, purpose, and direction. These are realizations that took me a long time to come to. I didn't understand these when I tried getting sober on my own a couple different times. The longest time I made it then was a month, and relapse, continued using for about, 9 months or so, and then ended up going to intensive outpatient treatment for 6 months. Still didn't understand these realizations. Ended up relapsing, dropped out of the program, continued using for about 9 months, went to inpatient treatment. Didn't understand these in inpatient treatment. Once I came out of inpatient treatment, I went back to another outpatient treatment program. And for about a year into that outpatient treatment program, I did not understand the concept of clarity, purpose, and direction. Had I understood these in the beginning, it would have set me up for success in a way that would have altered the course of my life. Would have totally changed what recovery meant to me. It would have changed the direction that I went with my life. So let's get into it. What is your purpose, your direction, your reason, your clarity for getting into recovery? For me, when I first started out, each time I failed, my reason was I wanted to be clean. That was it. I was sick of the side effects I was experiencing from becoming an addict. I became an addict. I wasn't being an addict. I had fully become one. I was sick of going through withdrawals. I was sick of having to lie to get drugs. I was sick of having to steal my drugs. I was sick of losing the connection I had with my family and my friends. I was sick of losing the connection I had with my life and my purpose. And so when I got into recovery, I thought that all I needed to do was become clean, and all of that would be wiped away, which most of it was when I became clean. I didn't have to experience the withdrawal anymore. Didn't have to feel sick. I didn't have to lie to get the drugs. Didn't have to become disconnected with my family as much because I wasn't high anymore, and so I could experience what was going on around me. And I became more connected with what I wanted in life because all I wanted was to be clean. That was it. Well, that only got me so far. That got me counting days and pretty much living my life and valuing the amount of days that I had in recovery. Not valuing valuing the amount of days I had being clean. Not valuing what I could have been doing to get to where I wanted to head in life. And after about a year of being in intensive outpatient, I started realizing that there was a lot more going on that I needed to change about myself. And I started realizing that recovery was the process of getting those things. So I started setting goals for myself. I started being like, you know what, I'm going to become the type of person that can go to a party, go out downtown, go out to the clubs. I'm going to become the type of guy that doesn't need to drink. I've always been very self-conscious. I've always struggled with shame and social phobia. I've always struggled with these things. And eventually I realized, you know what? I'm going to work on myself to the point that I'm going to become the type of person that doesn't experience these things. I'm going to become the type of person that is outgoing. I'm going to become successful in life. I'm going to become that type of person, and inhibit those qualities. I'm going to become really connected with my family and be there for them. I'm going to become a better son, brother, friend. I'm going to become the type of person that I've always wanted to be. And I started realizing that recovery is going to bring this to me. With having that realization, it gave me clarity and a purpose for being in recovery and having to do the footwork that I had to do and still have to do in recovery. And it made the process a lot easier. People are inherently lazy. All species are. It's the way we're set up. You're not going to do something if you don't see a benefit with that. And without seeing a true benefit, what's the point? Every time that I got into trying to become clean before, I just saw the benefit is not using anymore. Not having to experience the side effects that come with using all the time and come with being an addict. And so after a while, all I really saw was the days, as opposed to all the other things that I could be working on. And when you only see the days and you're in a really shitty spot and you're not working on improving who you are and becoming somebody better, becoming the type of person that can get out of the spot that you're in, you stay stuck. For me, I've always had a big problem with forgetting. I forget a lot of times what it was actually like. I'll go through something that's horrible and I'll forget just how bad it really was. And that's a very dangerous place to be if you don't have a goal set and an idea of where you're trying to go. But then you also forget where you were before. And you don't like the spot that you're in now. You start seeking out instant gratification to get out of the spot that you're in now, to get away from the feelings that you are because the type of person you become. The only outlet really is to relapse and start using drugs again. Because that's the quick fix. I thought in the beginning, I had this conception that recovery was going to be a quick fix. It was going to be stop using and my problems would go away. I didn't realize that I had become an addict, and that's who my personality was. Not just on a genetic level of having a disease, but also on a level of who I am inside and what sort of personality I've had most of my life. I don't think a lot of people realize this. A lot of people might. This to me now seems very basic, but it's something I still have to work on every day. Every day I gotta try to keep at the forefront of my mind, and it's very hard to do, but keep at the forefront of my mind what sort of things I'm working towards, where I'm trying to progress. And I've heard a lot of people talk about it when they're early on in recovery, that they haven't had the proof of what recovery can bring them. They talk about how, be at meetings, and they'll hear people talk about how they don't want to relapse because they're going to lose everything they've gained, and how hard it is to fathom that because they haven't gained anything yet. So they don't really have a goal set forth on what they're trying to become because they don't believe that it's going to change anything for them. Well, if you don't have a goal on what you're trying to change, it's hard to change. Very hard. It's not going to happen to you. You got to do it to yourself. You got to become ready to grow within that process. I remember being at an AA meeting the first time I was in intensive outpatient treatment, and there was a guy in there. He had 5 years of clean time, and he held on to that so dearly. He was excited to tell me about it. I was really fresh into it. I was just a couple months into the program, and this was one of the first AA meetings I had really been to, and I had my sponsor and everything. I was talking with this guy, and he's like, I made it to step 5 in the 12 steps. He's like, and from there, that was in the first year of me being in this program, and I'm not going to progress any further. He's like, I'm a human, and I'm inherently flawed. He's like, if I tried working on all my character defects, that would be me trying to become perfect And since I'm a human and I'm inherently flawed, I can't become perfect. So that's going to mess me up in the long run. Recovery isn't about becoming perfect. Recovery is about realizing you're not going to ever become perfect. But you're going to do your damnedest to try to get there anyways. Knowing that you're never going to be there, but you're going to try your ass off and set these goals, these ideas of what you have in your head of what you deserve, what sort of perfection you can actually lead in life, what you're entitled to, and you'll be damned if you aren't going to work towards that every day. With having that realization, I started to understand that there's a big difference between being and becoming. I really wanted to be happy when I got into recovery at first. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be a better family member. I wanted to be clean. But I didn't make the realization until a year into it that it's not about being a better family member, being happy, or being clean. It's about becoming happy, becoming a better family member, and becoming clean. And with understanding that it's becoming, because they're two totally different things. Anything can make you be happy. I mean, if you won $1 million, you could be happy, but are you going to become a happy person in life? No. If somebody pisses you off, you can be mad about it. Does that mean that you're going to become a mad person in life? No. When you set these goals to become that person, it becomes a part of your personality. It becomes part of your soul and who you are. I didn't realize that I could change my personality. That's something that took me a year to come to the realization that, holy shit, I can become all these things, and this is what I'm going to base my recovery around. With doing that, I set up boundaries on what my recovery was going to be. And I still set goals and boundaries when I can. It's hard. Again, something that's very hard. Something I have to think about every day or try to consciously think about every day. And when I don't, I fall off. And I've fallen off many times before. Right now I'm trying to climb my way out of just falling off. But when you set up these boundaries, it makes the process a lot easier. This is all still the groundwork for stuff that I wish I had realized when I first got into recovery, because it would have made the process a lot easier. With having this realized, then the process becomes easy because you have a goal that you're working towards, and it's like, oh, I got to do this because this is part of that goal. That happened to me, again, a year into treatment, because I despised taking UAs. I despised having naltrexone. I despised so many things. I despised the process, a lot of different parts of the process, going to meetings. I despised all these things because I didn't see the benefit of what they might bring me. Once I started realizing who I could become and I set really high goals and expectations for myself, then even though I had to do stuff that was very discomforting and I was uncomfortable in doing, it gave me a reason to do it. I lived an hour away from the intensive outpatient treatment that I was going to, and I would have to drive down on a random UA, take that UA, and it didn't matter if it was my day off work or if it was my day on work. Either one sucked. If it was my day off work, I couldn't stay at home because I had to come down on my day off and plan my day around it. If I had to go to work, I worked at a restaurant, worked at Red Robin, I was serving tables. A lot of times the shifts that I was working started at 4. Well, in the therapy place that I was at, they only had 2 specific time frames that you could come down and take a UA or take your medicine. And those time frames were between 12 and 1:30 or between 4 to 6. So if I got to work at 4, I got to come down, try to take the UA at 1:30, and then I have a ton of time to kill. I had to find stuff to do. Most of the time I either went to work really, really early and ate and just sat there, or I just sat in my car. When I didn't have a goal for myself, on who I could become with this process, and I didn't have an optimistic idea, positive outlook, I hated it. When I had that positive outlook and I had a goal and I was more optimistic about life, I still did not like it. It was still very uncomfortable. Recovery can still be a very uncomfortable process, but it gave me a reason to do it, and I was less begrudged to do it because I had an end goal in mind, and I was starting with the end and just working my way there, seeing the path to go there. This is why I had the first video be about positivity. I think that optimistic people in life are the ones that succeed the furthest in life. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not a pessimist, but I'm not an optimist, I'm a realist. Reality is something that is totally subjective to the individual. Reality is pretty much perception, because the way I perceive something to me feels real. If I perceive that something you said to me was out of sarcasm, even though to you, you perceived it as saying something nice to me, if I perceived it that way, that's how I'm going to take it. And so if I'm very negative around it, and I'm not being positive around it, I'm going to feel really negative towards life, and I'm going to develop a pretty negative outlook on life, set negative goals for myself, not see the benefits of anything. If I'm optimistic, that's going to be my reality. I'm going to set really high goals, have really high expectations, and my reality is going to be really optimistic. That's going to be my reality, and that's what's going to eventually come out of my life, is my perception, because that's what I'm working towards. This is something that took me a very long time, something that probably takes people a very short amount of time. Everybody's different. But if you come to realize this, it makes the whole process a lot easier, and you really start to realize just what you're doing, what the end goal is in mind, and the days start to fade away. It starts to not seem like, oh, I have 30 days of sobriety, or oh, I have 5 years or 10 years or whatever. It's like, you know what? Here I am right now. I'm loving life, but I still have all these other goals, and I'm going to work towards those. Or here I am right now. I haven't seen the benefits yet. I haven't had the proof yet, but this is my boundary with this. This is what I'm going to be working towards, and it's going to make this process a lot easier, because this is what I want to do with my life. It's your life. You literally only get to live it one time. One time. Why not make this be an experience that can literally change you, change your personality, change who you want to become? This is Luke from Sober from Despair. We'll see you in future videos.